Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call to order the Finance Committee meeting on this August 18th, 2025. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Rawls. Commissioner Durrett. Here. Commissioner Oster. Commissioner Jackson. Commissioner Russell. Here. Commissioner Hill. Here. Commissioner Lee. Here. Commissioner Thompson. Commissioner Fox. Commissioner Jay.
Here.
Commissioner Frazier. Present.
Thank you very much. Are there any amendments to today's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we'll lock that in as sent out. Look for a motion to approve the minutes from last Finance Committee meeting. Motion by Commissioner Frazier, second by Commissioner Hill. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. Is there anyone here for public forum that wishes to address the Finance Committee meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on to our first report from Knox County Schools. Knox County School Finance Director, Mr. Ron McPherson, is not here, but Mr. Simons is. If you would please give your name and title and county of residence for the record, please.
Chris Simons, Knox County Schools, Knox County. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm filling in for Ron. Later last week, you should have received a unaudited fiscal year 25 projected financial summary for general purpose fund, and also there's a comparison to 24 numbers as well. And along with that, there was also kind of a summary sheet just highlighting some high-level favorable, unfavorable trends to watch that Commissioner Jay has requested. So I'm going to kind of go over that. I'd be glad to go through the financial part, but honestly, there's not a lot different than what we were planning on and what I reported on, or what Ron reported on last Finance Committee. So I would be glad to go over anything finance related, obviously, but I'll just hit the high level summary sheet that you all received. Starting off with the favorable stuff, obviously we're sitting in a nice fund balance around $90 million, undesignated or unassigned fund balance. It's around 13% of what was approved in fiscal year 26. Obviously, that's about 2 months. That's about 2 months of payroll, which is kind of a target for us. But obviously, it can go very fast. So that's something that we would like to maintain, but it is there. As far as operations go, it's tracking very closely to where we were in fiscal year 24. There was nothing like that's actual to budget. There was nothing unforeseen or unusual, I guess, that was significant. Obviously, there are things that pop up that happen every year. But first, is there anything favorable wise? Any questions on that?
I just said, do you have a policy on the fund balance? Because for about 2 or 3 years now, we have, you all have reported a larger than average fund balance, and the state, obviously, you don't necessarily want to be closer to what the state bare minimum requirement is, but for the last 2 or 3 years, it's sort of been, hey, we're well above average. So is there a policy of the threshold? Because if that trend continues, we would much rather use some of that fund balance instead of increasing the budget on an annual basis, just to continue to build another fund balance.
Yes, there is no actual internal Knox County Schools policy, but we do work with Knox County, and we have used a lot of fund balance over the year. That number would be much higher if we had not utilized a lot of the fund balance that has been approved by Commission and the Board of Education. But our target is kind of 2 to 3 months. We'd actually would like to have around 3 months of payroll. I mean, that's kind of what we've worked with. We've seen other counties and such. That's a good target to ideally have, but obviously you're in a budget crunches, so sometimes you run into things that pop up and you have to address it with fund balance. So just to answer your question, 2 to 3 months. I mean, we're in a good spot, but at the same time, with everything, as we'll get down to the trends that we're kind of watching and the revenues and such, like where will we be? Like, will we have to dip into this more over the next 5 years? And that kind of leads me in. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Going into some areas of concern, a couple of big ones. One being the facility infrastructure versus our educational priorities. Obviously, that's competing with the same top dollars, with teacher raises and everything that we have at the schools, you have this facility infrastructure need, and that's directly competing with classrooms. So that's something that we've got to be aware of, and we work closely with Knox County as well on trying to see what our capacity is and what we can do each year. So
where are you with the teacher raises at this point? It was a goal of making starting pay at least $50,000 by next year?
Yeah, we're planning on having it by next year. But obviously, that's another big uncertainty. We have to get there, but obviously that number is going to keep jumping up. Well, next year we will be there. So that's going to be a big budget ask, though. I mean, the number keeps going up, but our revenues are staying flat or shrinking as far as the growth is going. So going down to just uncertainty in federal dollars, we have federal dollars that there's things we get told, and we're planning on having this pot of money, and those federal dollars may be frozen temporarily, or there's all these things that can pop up that we're kind of working in the unknown. So what does federal grant funding look, in the next, I'm sure you all have heard of the state Department of Ed, the federal Department of Ed, like what does that all look like? How does that get passed down to the states? Like we don't know where that's going. So that's a big uncertainty and concern. Is there anything there? Any questions? And just a couple of things to keep our eyes on. Obviously, more locally is we had a deficit around $2 million property taxes, which I'm sure Mr. Caldwell would know more about that than I would. But that is an area we came in less than budget there. And then sales tax. It's kind of normalized over the years. There's a schedule in that summary sheet. You can kind of see where back in 21 we had around 14.5% increase over the prior year. Now we're down to around 4 to 5%. So what is the surplus is just continuing to shrink. So what's the consumer spending going to look like, and any downturn is going to directly impact us. Is we're really reliant on the sales tax. And then it is tracking favorably, but again, it's getting tighter. So that's kind of a couple areas that we're continuing to monitor locally, along with the federal grant and the facility infrastructure needs.
Do you have a sense of any changes in the TISA amounts from the state, and with the new they said first year with the new voucher laws, that everything would remain the same? Have they given you any indication of year 2, or are there any other major changes to the TISA formula?
So there have, as much as the vouchers and such go, I'm not as much aware of how that will impact us, but I would be glad to get with our team to get you something back on that.
You may not know until the spring, and I just didn't know if they give you any early indication of.
There is one that I can think of off the top of my head. So I deal in paying our charter schools. So historically, we've paid our charter schools. We receive money through our TISA dollars, and then I pass through the funding for TISA through to our 2 charter schools. They've changed that this year for whatever reason, in that I typically would send the state portion and the local portion. Like we would receive it, so that would be budgeted in our revenue. And then the expense would obviously be out as another line item in our budget. So it's just a wash. But now the state has come back and said that we will send our part to the charter school, and you send your part. So still having to make the same payment, but now they're sending their portion as well, which can obviously create higher risk for errors. But saying all that, to the budget we had initially approved had the higher number in there, but there was also an associated expense. But in the end, that it'll appear like we didn't meet our TISA budget this year for fiscal year 26, but it's really just a wash. So we'll have savings in some other expenditure lines. So. I will say, I'll add to the TISA dollars as well that, back in 23 to 24, we had a huge jump in TISA dollars. 25 to 30% of our budget was that huge influx of dollars. And obviously that was specifically for passing through to get the teachers to that $50,000 magic mark number that the state has determined. So that's why we had that huge influx of dollars, and now it can easily be 1 to 3% growth over year. So you have all this huge influx of dollars that is going for this one purpose, but now you went way up here, and now you're just stabilizing. So that is something that we have to work with, or luckily we budgeted well there for that year to account for that, and not put that in areas that we're going to have to rely on. I mean, it has to go to teacher raises, but we didn't put it in other areas that we could have done.
Commissioner Frazier?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks for being with us today. Do you have any idea what is our per pupil investment, and how does it compare across the state?
So I work on that report as well. I'd be glad to, I hate to spit out a number, but it obviously ranges by school. I could get you a report that says, we report that yearly to the state. Now, we haven't gotten reported on 25 data, but it will be coming up very soon. I'd be glad to give you, 24 and then give you 25 right as it, we have the numbers. It's just we got to put it through to there's parts of the state does that they take out certain schools that we consider a school, but they're not considered a school in the state's eyes. They kind of merge them together. So.
And I've been having conversations with Mr. McPherson just about inquiring, trying to learn more, dig in a little bit deeper on our schools. And one question that I had was how many total employees with the school system, and he gave me the breakdown and how those go into teachers and admin. And right now it says that you employ over 7,200 folks, and of that 70% are teachers and educational assistants. If you could you go back and ask him how many people were employed with Knox County Schools in 2017? Because I have the average daily membership from 2017 to the current average daily membership, and those numbers are very close. But as you might expect, the general purpose approved expenditure budget has significantly increased. Yep. So if you wouldn't mind just getting those numbers for me, I would really appreciate that. Thank you.
I can do that.
Yeah, you'll no doubt share that when you get that data. Yeah. Share it with all of us. Thank you. Are there other questions for Mr. Simons about the education budget? Commissioner Hill.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks for pitch hitting. I don't know if you got this assignment the last minute or not, but I'm glad you're here.
No, he gave me a couple weeks' notice. So.
Oh, good, good. I certainly could stand corrected on this, but the one question about how the vouchers play into all of this, I'm fairly certain that the legislature gave us, actually, I think after the first year was a 2-year agreement that
hold harmless
that it would not change as far as the amount of funding public schools got. But after that 2-year period, then public schools could in fact become very vulnerable. So just something that we will need to be thinking about that if in fact it impacts public schools. I would love to see that breakdown too, Commissioner Frazier, that you asked for, and I've already got a few answers, but I'll wait till we get the numbers on that as to why some, especially in certain classroom areas, our numbers have gone up so drastically. But I'll save that for another day. Chris, if you don't know this, would you see if you could find out? I know that the federal funding is a big concern for our schools right now. It's a big concern for all of us, not just in the schools, but even in county government. And I understand that the funds given, that there's a lot of parameters around them about how it can be spent and how much can be reoccurring, and I understand all of that. I would like to know of the federal funding amount, what percentage of that is actually teaching or assistant positions.
And do you want all federal funding group, or do you want it broken out like, title dollars?
Well, I'm really most concerned about the funding that is at jeopardy. So I don't know if that even remains consistent or not, but.
Yeah, I believe they, on July 25th, I actually wrote a few things here. On July 25th, they restored those funds, but the superintendent and his office they're working through on how to allocate or how to spend those funds.
Gotcha. I'm just wanting to feel for how if this happens again, the impact on the classroom.
Yeah, what if I do something like you have your major funding and then you have your teaching positions that are attached to each of those, and I mean I could have total and then percent. I don't know, we can work through it, but just percent of the total grant, and I actually did something very similar to that recently for someone internally.
Great.
So
Yeah, that'd be very helpful. Thank you.
Any other commissioners' schools have come up quite a few times in the last 6 months? This is your opportunity to ask questions directly of the finance director. Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Simon.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, Mr. Jackson.
I wanted to do that right at the last moment. Thank you, Chair. I was just a recommendation or an ask for the next time. It would be good that as the vouchers, and losing students to private schools, as this progresses, it would be good at Finance Committee is that on the next one, if you could, give us how is this impacting us, what's the 2 or 3 year timeline, and any other, progress and news that
Okay. Yeah, I will definitely report back or get Mr. McPherson to report back on a report to you guys on the vouchers and what we know and kind of where we're at and get you something, but we'll keep you up to date as well.
Thank you, Mr. Simons.
Thank you all.
Next up on our agenda is summary report on Knox County tax collections and investments by the trustee. If you would, please join us at the podium. Give us your name and your county of residence.
You're good. Justin Biggs, Knox County Trustee, 400 West Main Street. Just a quick go over everything that we talked about for the past few times. Our favorables are we are still getting the 4.65 rate on our money market accounts through Smart Bank, which has really helped us out. Last time you heard from Pearl Mathis talking about the interest that we've earned from 2024 to 2025. That's over $12 million. That doesn't include the ARPA account. The next thing is we've earned a little over $780,000 through interest with our investments that we've done through 2024, 2025 through Raymond James. We've got that up to about $47 million now for those that came to investment committee last week. Pretty proud of that. The 2025 tax roll still on track for mailing out the statements for mid to late September. Right now we are in the staging area of delivering the 1652 files to IT. So that way we can go to the next thing, which is our tax relief and tax freeze and disabled veterans benefits before we go to our software provider before those are stuffed and sent out. So we're pretty far along in the process. Tax statements should be coming out earlier this year than they did last year, which is a plus for us. Why is that a plus? Because all the parcels that are in the city, they offer a discount if you pay your property taxes early to the city taxes. And before it's asked, no, it does not benefit us to do that. We actually lose money if we were to do that for Knox County. But what that means is a large group of people, they do pay their county taxes and their city at the exact same time. The 2024 tax collections, same as last year, $299 million as of right now. The tax sale so far is, that number was last week. We're right at $4 million. And we weren't anticipating being done serving process until mid-October. And we have actually come within hopefully being done at the end of August. So what does that mean? That means that we're going to be able to roll back that date and working closer to that March or April tax sale 25 date. For those of you that attended or came to the last sale, it was rather large. This one's the exact same. Actually, it's a little bit bigger. What's unfavorable? We've got a lot of retail and food services that are still struggling. We've seen some of them in bankruptcy, and we're seeing that we have also seen a slight increase in bankruptcy filings for home mortgage and real property accounts, which is commercial property. Things that we're watching the market to make sure we get the best possible rates on any investments and Fed funds interest rates. Mr. Powell, where that's going to go, and we will not be able to see that until September. So that's the trustee report. Also inside, you will see the 6-year is in there as requested. Anybody have any questions about any of that?
I have a question about can you explain the tax sale process? When does something determine to go into the tax sale? Who makes that determination? What's the timing of that information? Who gets the information, and when does the public get to digest that information?
Yeah.
And then how do you set the date?
So all year long, we have requests for tax sale properties. Anybody could come in and ask, is this property delinquent? Is it current? Hey, we've called codes on this property multiple times, and we looked, and it's delinquent. Sometimes it's a ditch or a creek or something between, let's say, Commissioner Jackson and Hill live next door to each other, and they could have been taking care of that for years, because if they don't, pests and rodents come out, and they know that nobody's paying the property tax on it, so they'll come down and say, hey, can you put this in the tax sale? So we'll do stuff like that, request, but we go into specific areas.
Can I stop real quick? So does that mean, like, there's not a policy of if you're late 3 years,
Yeah,
you then go? Okay.
Yeah. And so then after we look at the length of delinquency, we sit down and we go through what the delinquent length is. After 10 years, the taxes roll off, so we try to put the ones that are going to roll off into the tax sale as much as possible. But state law says anything after 2 years delinquent, you can place into a tax sale. So whenever we go through the sale date, we take that and put it in our algorithm of what it's going to be, and we place those into the tax sale that are 2 years or more delinquent. Then once we compile that listing, then we go in and we look at the largest amount, which is like your most delinquent accounts by dollar amount. We put those into the sale. Then after that, it goes into a process of where we order title work. After title work, you get that back. You have to file your complaint. You and the law director's office, we get together, we file that in court. Then after that, we get all of our people that we're supposed to serve. Then we go out to those that are outside of the outer band of outer counties. So, which means like you have Knox County, then you have the counties that are close by. Then we certify mail those. After we certify mail those, we start serving process because we have a firm number. We separate our attorneys and all of our people that will be served in a capacity of multiple parcels. So if you're an attorney on multiple parcels, like we serve you all at once with all those properties, and then we serve all the properties that are multiples with like the same owner. If you have 10 parcels that are in the sale, we try to serve you at once, get all the multiples done, and then we go through and we serve everyone. As we're serving, we have some people that are deceased, some people that don't live here anymore, some people that we have to use on a search engine to find where their current address is, whether it's Florida or Texas, California, wherever. Certify mail that. Then after we get all those done is whenever the court process starts. It's about 4.5 months. Then we do a publication, and then we hold the sale.
What point does that list become available to the public versus your staff?
The list becomes available to the public whenever we're serving process right towards the end. So the list is available now if you want to come to our office and sign up. I don't know if those of you remember our previous tax sale. We put the list online pretty early in, and whenever that happened, we had a person get the list and fraudulently say some stuff, and basically saying that they, was going through the tax sale process, and they were making an opportunity for questions to arise that weren't relevant at the time. So then we took it and we brought it into the office, and we made it to where you came in and showed us your ID, so that way we had some backup. And that's the process we've been using for the past month or so. We've got 218 people that's came in and gotten the tax sale list that way with copies of their identification.
Commissioner Jackson?
Thank you, Chairman Jay. Trustee Biggs, did you mean First Bank rather than Smart Bank on the interest?
Well, we have multiple accounts, First Bank, ICS Sweep, LGIP, Smart Bank. We have several accounts with different
So I was just
banks.
wondering, are all of these tied to the Fed funds rate, or, so as the Fed lowers rates, are all of these investments going to come down? Because just for your information, I just did a quick calculation here that based on the June 30th figures number, that each quarter point decrease is about $835,000 of lower income. Is that about right?
So our what we do is our daily deposits is just through First Bank.
Okay.
Yeah, like that daily, the bulk, I guess you'll say the bulk of our money is through First Bank, drawing that 4.65 rate. And what we do then is we talk back and forth with First Bank. They're very competitive right now because that contract ends in December. So they're being very generous with us right now. I'll be honest, they've been very generous with us.
And by the
whole
way,
time.
you probably know this, and I'll tell everybody else, that's 15 basis points or 0.15% higher than the 30-day T-bill.
It is.
Which is backed by the full faith and credit of the United States government. So that means that we are stronger than the U.S. government.
Yes.
You know?
And which is, at the time they were probably happy they got the deal with us, but probably right now they're not overly, they're probably kicking themselves a little bit because we've done very well. And talking with other trustees throughout the state, they're like, man, we would love that deal with First Bank, but they aren't.
I guess getting back to my question is that does finance department and you discuss what does each quarter point increase decrease mean to our bottom line budget?
So we do. Pearl Mathis is the CFO for the trustee's office. We discuss all that probably every Monday-ish at our administrative meeting. We go over finance, we go over basically everything, our state programs, getting ready for the tax statements and things of that nature.
And I'm assuming all the balances except for your master operating account are interest-bearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, all of them are interest-bearing except for what? Yes.
Can she either come up to the podium or you relay what, we can't hear from the back row.
I guess this just since we're talking at Finance Committee, I just wanted to, I just looked 2 seconds ago at the Fed funds futures, and they're expecting 100%. There's a 100% chance of a 50 basis point or a 0.5% decrease by the end of the year, and another 25 bips by March. So that would be 0.75.
Pearl Mathis, Knox County
Hello, Ms.
Trustee's
Mathis.
Office. On the accounts that we have that we're showing the interest on, those are all the money market accounts, investment accounts per se, that money is in order to earn interest. We have accounts that's set up for our tax sale fees, and we have like prepaid tax accounts, and those we do not earn interest on them. They are all swept overnight, basically all swept into the master operating account where that account earns interest. We do have some that we don't commingle because they have not been receipted. So the prepaids are not receipted yet, so therefore we can't really count them as revenue.
I would appreciate just an update at the next quarterly Finance Committee, because you said that this contract is up in December.
It is.
And what impact that might have on county finances based upon whatever the new contractual rate is.
Absolutely, yes. Well, I will say this, Pearl and I have already met with First Bank several times. We do have 5 one-year extensions, and they are, really anticipating us having an opportunity to get those 5 years. So we've worked great with them. We're very appreciative of it. Yes.
Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Chair. Trustee Biggs, do you have a list of the restaurants and businesses that have declared bankruptcy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Do you want?
I'd like to see it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can give it to you.
How often is it updated?
Oh, we update it weekly.
Okay. Is that something that's publicly available or just internal?
We keep that internal, but if you were to do, say, an open records request, we'd have to give it to you. Yeah, but yeah, we can.
I'd love to have that email, thank you.
Yeah, it'll be coming from Linda.
Okay,
Yeah, Linda McGinnis.
all right, thank you. And I have a question for Commissioner Jackson. When you said $800,000, what was the time frame in which you were referencing?
That's an annual amount.
Annual,
So
okay.
I just took the total cash balance, multiplied it by 0.0025
Okay.
to come up with what each quarter point increase would mean to the county.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Lee?
Oh, thank you. Could we,
One second before you, if you could just email that retail list of restaurants, or just email it to Drew and she'll give it to the Finance Committee as a whole, please. Thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
that was what I was going to
Oh,
request.
sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Other questions around the horn? I had one. So is that you said there's 5 extensions on that?
Yes, sir. 5 one-year extensions.
Okay, so that'll come back to commission for
Yes.
extension. Okay. Thank you, Pearl. Trustee Biggs, I have another question. Several years ago, you came and at one of the Finance Committee meetings, you talked to us about the fleet of trucks that you purchased. I think it was several $100,000 of taxpayer money used for those trucks. Are you still using those? And if so, what are they used for? And if not, what happened to them?
Yeah, we are. We just got we're 98% through with serving process. Those trucks were used on every single one of those. We use them to go out to our elderly and our disabled veterans. You call in, you ask if you could have an opportunity to have somebody come out. They come out, they come to your residence, sign you up for tax relief, tax-free, disabled veterans benefits. We use those to go out. They service every one of our satellite offices. We have 5 satellite offices. They service every single one of those. They do bank pickup and drop off. They're very mobile. They're out a lot. We do things like going out to the satellites during our busy times, if there's X amount, we have a threshold of X amount. And if you get to that, we go and we pick it up and we take it to the bank. We don't want X amount sitting in a safe overnight before the deposit goes the next morning and us getting broken into and having that amount. We do a lot of things that's, to benefit the community with those.
Are all those trucks equipped with GPS?
Yes.
Are you all monitoring, and do you have a policy? I'm asking obviously because you dismissed a member of your staff for abusing that policy, and it's been reported that other trucks have been used for other purposes. So what are you doing to ensure the taxpayers have the confidence that those aren't being used for personal use or other uses outside the trustee's business?
We updated our policy the moment that this was brought to light. Started monitoring the GPSs. We have multiple logs now and things that you have to go through to be able to even use a truck daily, things of that nature.
Any other questions for the trustee? Okay. Seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the report from our finance director, Mr. Chris Caldwell.
Good afternoon. Before I passed out, and we emailed it out Friday, the monthly financial update. We'll go through some of this, and if you all have questions, stop, and we can go from there. This, although it says it is through June the 30th, know that we still have revenue that comes in through the end of this month, and we will accrue that back. But we'll do some estimating here so you can kind of know where we think we're going to end and where we are currently and things like that. So I think best place to start is probably page 4. Basically, is our summary schedule. And I'll focus on a few areas here, and then if you have questions on this page, we're happy to answer them. We talked a lot this year about property tax ratio and that impact on us. And I think you can see it here, and we'll go through some of that. But let's start first. And if you look, first line is general fund, and it's just looking at revenues. If you look at 25 year to date, you'll see a total of about 224.4 total there. It was about 99.74% of the budget, which is fine. But if you look at 24 year to date, actual was about 235. It's 234.98, and so you can see that's a decrease year to date of about 10.6 million in revenue over a year ago as it relates to the general fund. That year to date number in 24 is holistic, as in for the full year. We expect to get about 5 more million in general fund as we wrap up this month. So I think our number will be between 229 and 230, which is still $4 to $5 million less in revenue than where we were a year ago. So a few things play in on that, right? So property tax ratio being one, and then there's some odds and ends that go into that as well. I think when you think about the general fund, and I think a lot of people just focus on that. There's a lot of things that the general fund has to do for other funds that often don't get discussed, and we'll talk about that once we get down to the expenditure side. So it's often used to make funds whole, right? So we use that fund a lot, whether it's an internal service fund or even a special revenue fund. So like that being said, if you look at solid waste, which is about 4 down, you'll see the revenue this year is 3.8 compared to 4.8 a year ago, so $975,000 down in revenue. You see the expenses below that, 4.98 compared to 4.8, so expenses up about $145,000, but revenue down $975,000. So that fund is basically, by this report, about $1 million less than where it was a year ago. So then we have so how do we make this fund whole, right? We make this fund whole either by the general fund, or in this fund's case, sometimes we would do it by engineering and public works, because solid waste is a function of engineering and public works. So when solid waste fund struggles, as it has this year, that can lead us to pull from things that we don't like to pull from, right? So if EPW is supplementing this fund, then that's less things they're getting to do from what things that we like, right? Paving and things like that. So then we will probably at some point this year have a conversation about solid waste, and a very uncomfortable conversation. We have more convenience centers than we're required to have. We're, I think, legally required to have 3. I think we have 7. And so do we want to continue to supplement a solid waste fund with revenue from EPW or the general fund, or do you have some unpleasant conversations revolving around paying to throw, or weighing as you come in and weighing when you're going out and paying that way? I think, those are not pleasant conversations, but I think it's conversations that we're going to have because this fund historically usually has to have a transfer to balance.
Do we still have a significant problem at our convenience centers with commercial companies using the dumps for
I think
construction waste and other things that should be paid for if they were to go to other places?
Correct. I think we did a waste stream study recently in the last year or so, and that was a big issue, was what they call C&D material, right, which is construction demolition. Basically contractors bringing that there. And we have tried to address that. We could talk to Jim. I'm sure that we could probably be more stringent if we had to, and probably need to. And so there are things that we can do that are less painful. And I think a broader conversation from a waste stream standpoint, because, people come there, they don't like to be told no, right? I pay my taxes. Well, why can I use this whenever I want to? There's things that go into that. And so, but yeah, solid waste is a fund that I think we may want to spend a separate day on and just talk about options that could be put on the table from what could make that better and solvent. Like, we do more things than are required. Does that mean we want to stop those? Doesn't mean that, but often things you have to offset, and so, but that's a great example. If you look at, I just highlighted a few here. If you look at the debt service fund, we often talk about debt. You'll see that revenue this year was $82.2 million compared to $86.2 last year. While revenue did go down, a little bit of that is because there was a transfer that schools made that in 24 they didn't have to make in 25. That was kind of like a loan. But if you look down at the expense side of debt service, you will see that the expense side went from $76.5 million to $82 million. So a $5.5 million increase in debt service expenses. Of those amounts, $3.2 million was an increase in principal payment and $1.9 million was an increase in interest payments. And so spent 82, I think if you look at budget for 26, it's got a budget of 86. I think it gets up to about 97 in 3 or 4 years. And so we know debt service is an issue and we know what's coming. I would say this, we've helped ourselves a little bit. We still have not issued debt for FY25, so we've not issued the bonds for FY25 yet. So we went the whole fiscal year of 25, not issued those bonds. We probably won't issue those bonds at least until December. We'll look really smart because interest rates are going to drop, and so people will say, oh, you knew what you were doing. Ultimately, what we were trying to do is get to spend down requirements. We have spend down requirements to hit in previous year bonds, and so you'll recall that we did not hit spend down requirements in, I think it was 23, we did not hit our spend down requirement. And so what causes that? So what causes that is departments may say, I need capital for ABC. Great. So we appropriate that money. Then we have spend down requirements in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, and 24 months. If you don't hit those spend down requirements, then you have to pay all the interest you've earned back, right? So you're not allowed to make, what they do it for, the feds do not want you basically issuing debt and making money off them without spending it down. And so in 23, we did not hit our spend down requirements. And so what you do is once you don't hit one of the marks, like month 6 or month 12, then you might as well go ahead and go to the next one, because that one is shot, and then you come back to that one. So we're making sure that we hit all of our spend down requirements in 24, then go back to 23. So we are delaying issuing 25 until we have to do that, because we want to make sure that we continue to hit spend down requirements. So some things are out of your control, right? So whether it's delays and things like that, but oftentimes departments not knowing spend down requirements, they don't think, they just, oh, I've got the money, I can do it whenever I want to, right? And so my friend Chris here, we had a really good conversation with schools this year about when we're going to issue bonds for the K through 8. And not to him, we didn't have to explain to him because he's smarter than most. We had to have this conversation about when are you building this school? Because we can't issue it all right now if you're not starting 18 months from now, right? And so I think all those things are educational and are important. And so, but we will continue to see our debt service budget increase because we know that we have some debt coming due from basically FY 27 to 2034, and those payments, you have to make as we budget each year. There are two things that you first say you have to pay: debt and pensions. Right? You have no choice. So you factor those in first, and then everything else comes after that. And so I think that's important. So I'm going to quickly go back to the general fund on the expense piece. You will see that currently it looks like expenses are about the same at 229.4 to 229.8. But I had mentioned we have some transfers to do to fix some funds. We're going to have about $5 million in transfers coming out of the general fund, which is an expense in the general fund, going to fix not only solid waste, but some internal service funds, being tech support, building operations, vehicle service center, things like that. And so we make that whole through the general fund, and so that expense number will go up about $5 million. And so as we look to close the year, just focusing on the general fund, we will be about $5 million in the red, right? So we will see for the first time in a number of years expenses exceeding the revenue in the general fund. We knew in 25 and 26 this was going to be a challenge. We talked a lot about property tax ratio and how that was going to impact us, right? So this is how it impacts us. So here's just where we are. 26 won't get much better, right? Now there will be some new construction that will be added to the tax roll that can help offset some of this. I think we are helped some as well. You will get this week from us a designation list. And you will see that general fund designation list go from about 7 million last year to about 500,000 this year. So drastic drop, right? And so that helps as we look at 26. So it's not what anybody likes, right? So I know that we all, at the end of the year, I get a lot of phone calls. Hey, Chris, you got any money to do A, B, or C? We said, well, sure, we can do this, or this, right? This year's not there. But 26 can be a little better because those designations won't be there as much on the general fund. And the designations that we are doing, just so you're aware, will be multi-year commitments that we made that we think is best to continue and not stop those. And so you will get those. But before I continue on, are there any other questions on this page?
I have one question. Yeah. The hotel motel fund continues to sort of outpace our budgets. I think recently we had talked about, are there other projects or things within Knox County that would qualify to be a tourism-based operation that we can use that money for? Have you all had a chance to kind of analyze that and look at how we can better use that fund?
Ultimately, yes. I think you will see on our designation list something that we're going to do. We're going to turf the infields of the sports park, right? It's like $3 million.
Where?
I think it's in Carnes. Is that Carnes? Carnes, does it? So turf the infields, which will help with tournaments, and they don't have to stop play when they're training and things like that. So it's a $3 million expense, but because it's related in bringing people here, we can pay for that out of motel tax and not through a bond issue, right? And so that's an example that you will see on there. And so, yes, we think there are ways, as long as it's tied to tourism, there are things we can do through motel tax fund that can help. I mean, it helps us from an operational standpoint, from this standpoint. If those fields are turf, then citizens can use those 5 days a week, right? Because usually tournaments are on weekends. So there's a benefit to us to do it, but you got to make sure that it is tied to tourism, so it's an allowed expense. Okay. But to your point, motel tax continues to do really well. We're going to end the year probably about 14.6, 14.7 million, which is a little ahead of last year and well above what we had budgeted for.
Commissioner Lee, you have a question?
Yes, thank you. On the form that has the prisoner board state $6 million, how is that? Is that what we took in, or that what we anticipate getting in?
I think you're jumping ahead on that. You're looking at this sheet?
Yes, I am looking at the sheet.
Hold your thought.
Okay.
We're going to get to that after this
Okay.
presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Page 5 is just a sales tax analysis. Keep in mind that 96%, as it shows in FY25, is not complete yet. We still have 1 month left to accrue, so we will exceed our 5-year average on sales tax. With that in mind, if you go to page 6, this just looks at the general fund sales tax analysis. And so I always look at the composite trend, which if you look at that middle box, far right composite trend, it basically looks at all of our trends that we analyze. I use that when you look at the general fund. We think going into this last month that we will beat the budget by about 1.26 total. So get in about 14.86 million compared to a budget of 13.6. So sales tax has continued to do well this year. You can go on to the next page 7. You'll see schools on track to outpace their budget by about 10.25 million. And then the next page, engineering and public works will outpace their budget by about $1 million in sales tax. It's very interesting. Sales tax for us has continued to do well. We had 1 month that I think was down, but we have consistently stayed above budget on sales tax all year. We're ahead of where the state is. You'll often, if you read my emails and don't just put them in your junk folder and think it's just Chris again, I always put a note on the bottom of where the state is on sales tax collections. The state's been very flat this year on sales tax, which is interesting. We would anticipate the same, right? As you know, we base a lot of our information off state economists, right? So Andy's dad, we talk to a lot, and so we want to know what we think the state's doing. And so the state has been very flat on sales tax. We have not, and so that is positive for us. You've heard me say that it matters where you shop, kind of, right? And so we got our first Chick-fil-A in Knox County in Turkey Creek, and so we're happy about that. Don't go to any other Chick-fil-A except that one. I'm just kidding. Hard Valley, what did I say? Sorry. Yeah, that would not be us. That'd be the city or the town. Don't go that one. I'm kidding. Yeah. So it matters. It matters where you buy things at, and so I think so that can lead to, like, we may have saw more of an increase this year on the county side that we typically have, and it could just be somebody just changing their pattern of where they buy something at, right? And so Any questions on sales tax?
Commissioner Fox? Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do actually have a question. Are you aware of what are the normal contributions to sales tax, the ratio of the big four, so to speak, Knox County, Hamilton, Shelby, Davidson, and compared to the rest of the state, but also compared to the overall state economy, GDP, not GDP in a sense, yeah.
Yeah, we could get those. It's by far the biggest chunk, right? I mean, you take those big four, we could get what that number is. There's some, of course, Sevier County is always high as well because that's what they focus on. And of course, some of the surrounding counties in Nashville, whether it's Rutherford or Williamson, their sales tax is usually pretty good too. And so we can get that number and provide it to you, but it's going to be a chunk. We can look at sales tax from the standpoint of the state will provide a report by county, so we could see like what percentage each county is of the total amount per month.
That'd be great.
And so we can give you that.
Thank you.
And for us, right, and you've heard me say this, I think 68% of our cash registers in this county are inside the city of Knoxville, right? And so some of that has to do with finger annexations that were done back in the 90s. And so if you see our sales tax report, which we should get one in today or tomorrow, a lot of it, the vast majority goes to the city and then us and then the town of Farragut. And so that's how that's kind of broken out. But it's basically, it's just how the lines are. And there's no doubt that finger annexations have hurt us over the years. You were held harmless for a set number of years, but a lot of those have rolled off now. So, property tax analysis. You will see.
Do you have more further questions? Okay. Just want to double check. Is there a de-annexation process statewide by any chance?
I think you can do that now. I think you can request it.
To the state?
I think it goes back to the legislative body. Does that seem right? You're shaking your head yes, like I know what I'm talking about, but that seemed right. I think you can request it and it goes back. So I think if you were, let's pick on them, if you were in the city and you wanted to de-annex yourselves, I think you make the request. I think it goes before city council.
So why would they ever approve that? Commissioner Durrett, do you have some information on this?
I do, because with my district being on the border, completely within city limits and on the border of the county, I do have some areas that have, I'm thinking of a road specifically where 4 houses are sporadically within city limits, and then the remainder of the road is county only. So is it a county road? Is it a city road? That's a great question. Nobody seems to know the answer. So I have, due to a request of one of those residents, researched this, and what has been found is that the resident who would like to de-annex from the city would have to request that via city council. And then that must be approved that way.
That's what I thought. Yeah, interesting.
It is.
Everybody's going,
But
Commissioner Thompson.
Thank you. So I guess by that it would be property owner initiated, not county commission initiated.
Okay. All right, Mr. Fox.
thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I just wanted to note, I have received complaints from Knox County citizens who live at the far reaches of the county, but yet are still within the city, about the level of services they are receiving from the city. And I don't know if that would serve as a a basis for a lawsuit. Individual taxpayers may have to raise the issue, and law director may know better than me, but if they're not receiving the benefit of city services, even though they're paying city taxes, that may be some leverage with the city council.
All right.
The city is not going to give up one iota of a tax. So, and unfortunately, that's the way it happened under the prior administrations in the city, going back when Victor Ashe wanted to finger annex all the way up through Knox County and get all the retail, so he could get that sales tax money. And it's unfortunate that that's the way it is, but the city's not going to give up one inch of property, in my mind. But it would have to be initiated by the property owner.
Is there some recourse for a city resident who's not receiving the types of services they're supposed to be receiving, to your knowledge?
They can complain to city council, and that's it.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner Russell?
I was going to ask if there was an appeal process if the city turned them down, but
I don't think so.
who would that be appealed to? Would they?
There wouldn't be any appeal. That's just, city council is going to exercise its legislative authority and say no, and that's it. It's not an appealable thing.
If I may.
Yes, Commissioner Hill?
It seems like, and I was thinking, Commissioner Durrett, it was with you, but it may have been another commissioner when we looked into this, and the problem came with the city person trying to appeal this and claiming they didn't get city services was basically they'd never tried to call the fire department and they'd never needed city police, so which are two of their biggest expenditures, and they were not able to correctly demonstrate that they weren't, in fact, not receiving those services because they were services they never, fortunately, needed. Anyway, so it was with someone that is like Commissioner Durrett that has quite a bit of city, but clearly must not have been her.
Sorry to get off the path, because
no worries.
but we're
So,
obviously it's an issue if 70% of the sales tax is in the.
It's a big deal. I mean, it is, and and so you all know, by referendum, as you all know, and so let's cover this really quickly. So, the city and the county give 72.2% of sales tax to the schools. Okay, that's because of referendums, and so, and for that to ever change, it would have to go back to a referendum. And so keep that in mind. So, but as the city is discussing their sales tax, a new half-cent tax on the ballot, if that were to pass and then the county were to do it, which would impact the schools, at that point, on that half penny, city and county would only give 50%. So clear as mud, I know. So the original 2.25% would be based on the old referendum. The new referendum would be based just on what state law mandates, which is 50. Got that? So page 10. I think this is important. I've had some calls about this recently, so I thought I would spend a little bit more time on this page. So our total tax rate is 1.5540. Of that, basically 65 cents, to be exact, 65.24 cents, goes to the general fund. So that basically says 41.98% of all property taxes goes to the general fund, okay? General purpose school fund gets the 0.5064, which is 32.59%. And then debt service gets the 39.5 cents, which is 25.43% That debt service amount is as close as we've been to where evenly split between county and schools, okay? We're trying to get to where there's not a transfer from the general purpose school fund to debt service. It's all paid for through the tax. And so why is that important? It's important for this reason. If somebody is requesting a TIF on a development and it gets approved, they've got to pay the debt service piece. And so by that amount being what it is, that's the amount they have to pay. They don't get that discount. And so any TIF that is approved, debt service has to be paid. So by increasing that amount, then we benefit by that amount has to be paid. So I gave you those percentages out loud. I think it's important because as you all approve a budget every year and you all approve a tax rate, we can move pennies around, right? And so you've heard me say that I think legally we are required to give schools the sales tax that comes in from the city and the county. They are legally required to get 72.2% of that. State law also says maintenance of effort, local recurring revenue, you can't reduce that. But what you can do is if sales tax goes up $20 million, as an example, and you don't like his tie because you think it's not fitting on him, and you say, we're not going to give them growth, then you take it back in property tax, right? And so there's ways to do that. You've got to give them sales tax, but you can pull it back in property tax if you so desire. And so I think it's important to know that property tax can be changed. It can be changed during the budget process, though. And we did. Now, I would urge you probably never to take pennies away from debt service, because if we have those pennies going to debt service, they're there for a reason. But the other piece is there. And so I think that's an important page. We break it out by the pennies that go to each fund because that's how we view things. But if you think about it from a percent standpoint, I think that helps as well.
Commissioner Fox? Thank you, Chair. So with maintenance of effort, it's not revenue specific, it's just bottom line?
Maintenance of effort, local recurring revenue. So for us, and Chris has to turn this report into the state, so he knows a lot more than me. Current property taxes, delinquent property taxes, interest off property taxes, local option sales tax, permits, fees, and fines. Those are the things that I think the state looks at from maintenance of effort. They don't count fund balance, they don't count transfers, correct? So it's local recurring revenue, and strangely enough, they look at it based off budget only, right? So not actual, off of budget. And so I think it's always been interesting to me. So from a budgetary standpoint, local recurring revenue, you can't supplant. You've got to keep them at least whole, okay? Now, I will tell you, I'm old, so back in 08 or 09 when we had the Great Recession, we actually couldn't keep up with maintenance of effort, and it was negative. Chris was probably in diapers. But they held us harmless. I think everybody in the state couldn't keep up with maintenance of effort then, because from a budgetary standpoint, everybody went down. And they just decided to hold everybody harmless. But they can choose to hold your sales tax if you don't make maintenance of effort. They want you to not supplant, is what they basically are after.
Okay. And what were those, what is considered local recurring again? I mean,
Local
other people may
recurring?
know this, but I'm just.
I would say, just say property taxes, which is current or delinquent and interest. Local option sales tax. Permits, fees, and fines. Am I missing anything? He can send the list. He will he email you all the list.
Okay.
And so it's what they look at. It's not the total budget. That's what I always tell everybody. Don't get focused on the total. It's actually less than that. But I mean, it's kind of the same thing. But you could have a one-time transfer that goes away, and that's what would make it look strange.
Okay. Thank you.
And a penny from a budgetary standpoint is 1.96 million, although we did not hit that number in 2025. We budgeted that same number in 2026, and Bodie assures me that we'll hit it. I think. So page 11, 12, and 13 is a breakdown of property tax. Besides going through these, I'm just going to tell you all some things that I think are important instead of just focusing on each of these funds. So currently, year over year, our current collections on current property taxes is right at $299.3 million, 299.3. We've got 2 weeks to go, so this will change a little bit potentially. That is about $382,000 less than last year. So $382,000 less than last year. From a budgetary standpoint, it's $5.2 million less than budget, which could be my fault.
While you're on that point, can you also just reiterate the state discount rate and how, because that was about a $9 million swing this year, right?
Correct. So, yeah.
Explain what that is and why it's going to go away.
Property tax ratio, the property assessor has opined to what Chairman Jay said, had a $9.6 million impact on us. What is property tax ratio? Basically, it's the assessor having to send to the state and them certifying what we have things assessed at versus what they're selling for. So our ratio was 71.67%. What does that mean? That means, I'm simple-minded, that means if a house was selling for $1 million, we had it appraised at $710,000. You with me? So why is that important? What the state does is the state, after the second year after reappraisal, if you're on a 3, 4, 5, or 6 year appraisal cycle, after year 2, you stay at 100% in year 1 and year 2. In year 3, that ratio is applied to anything that is appraised annually. What is appraised annually? Utilities. So utilities are appraised annually, and it's appraised, but there's also an odd calculation with depreciation and things like that. But ultimately, KUB got, Phil hates when I say this, I'm going to say it anyway. They got like a $2 million discount, right? So they would budget at 100%, which would be like $10 million. They have to pay us $8 million because that ratio had that impact on their payment. That's not the only one. Business personal property is assessed annually, and they are also entitled to this property tax ratio. So things like that is why we look in 25 and we see that our collection rate's less than what it was in 24. People will say, how can that be? You have growth, you have new construction. Okay, we do. We should have been down 9.6. We were down 380,000, right? So it could have been worse. It was worse from a budgetary standpoint because we thought we'd have all this growth, right? But the growth was eaten up because of this ratio. So you all fixed that ratio. How did you fix it? You all agreed to go to a 2-year appraisal cycle. So, but it doesn't get fixed until that appraisal cycle starts. So in 2027, we will go back to 100% of a property tax ratio and stay at 100% for eternity because it will never drop because you're on a 2-year cycle. So that, to Chairman Jay's point, we're struggling this year because of this ratio, not just us. A a lot of people across the state, right? I mean, I can tell you, I saw the list. You look at Sevier County, they were at 52%. Anderson County was at 56%. So it can get worse. I mean, we don't want it to, but it can get worse. And so you fix it by going to a 2-year cycle. You all did that. That's important. Now, things as well from that have changed. So delinquent taxes, we have collected in 2025 a little over $3 million. It's about $165,000 less than it was a year ago, but only $97,000 less than budget. What we call clerk and master delinquent, which all that means is anything that is delinquent by more than a year. In certain counties, after a year, it goes to the clerk and master to collect. That's why it's named that. This year, we have collected $3.225 million, which is about $454,000 less than last year, but it's $200,000 more than what we had budgeted. And then the interest off those delinquents, we collected about $2,060,000, which is about $238,000 less than last year, only $139,000 less from a budgetary standpoint. If you look at delinquent and interest collections this year compared to last year, it's about $858,000 less than a year ago. From an actual standpoint, from a budgetary standpoint, it's only $36,000 less. So what can make that number go down? A few things, right? So our collection rate is really high, right? It's usually 97, 98%, and through 10 years, we collect 99.9% of the total tax roll. So as the more of the tax roll that you collect, right, then the less delinquents you're going to have. And so I think from an accounting standpoint, as we budget for things like that, we look at that because that plays a role. Because you want to be really high on your collection rate. Now, to be fair, if you're really high on year one, it reduces your chancing of your chance of getting interest off delinquents. And so that just plays a role. The better job you do of collecting on the front end, the less delinquents and interest you're going to have. Questions on property taxes? Page 14, motel fund. We kind of already talked about this one a little bit. We project to be about $14.675 million in collections this year in motel tax fund. We are looking at ways, as Chairman Jay mentioned, of trying to benefit Parks and Rec specifically as we look at this. When we do this, we always like to call our external auditors first and then the comptroller's office to say, hey, we have this idea and we think we can use motel taxes for this. Do you agree? We'd rather get approval on the front end than them coming back on the back end and saying, Chris, you're an idiot. And so we usually call. I'll give you one that's really outside the box that we're doing, but we thought it worked, and they agreed. When you get your designation list, you're going to see a proposed motel tax designation for Children's Hospital underneath motel taxes, and it's for their graduate medical education program. But basically, they are bringing you may all probably heard about this, a residence program to Children's Hospital. And so we said, let's look at this. And they wanted our help. And so I made them give me that data, or I requested data, saying, show me how many of because of this program, how many of your patients will come from out of county, stay in hotels here, and we benefit from that. And so they gave me that data. I did some calculations on average room rates and average days stayed, and we went to our external auditors and the comptroller's office and said, listen, we think we can use hotel motel tax for this because basically we're just paying back for what's coming in. They agreed. And so that's a little outside the box. It's not the norm. I think the norm of stuff for hotel is for Parks and Rec that is related to tournaments that is driven by tourism from out of county. Questions on hotel motel tax?
Can that be used for capital as well as operating, or just capital?
I'm sorry?
Can it be used for capital projects and operating funds, or one or the other?
I think you could use it for both as long as you show that it's tourism related. I think we've got some other ideas that we could use it for that would be capital. As an example, as you know, we're using it to pay debt service on our portion of the downtown stadium. So yes, it can be used for capital and to service debt as well. Yeah. So just so you all know, I saw this the other day. This is intriguing. If you all saw what the room rates for like the Tennessee-Georgia games downtown, it was like $2,000 a night or something. Think about that. Go book it, please. Page 15, wheel tax report. So you'll remember, I think a year ago, we had a really interesting discussion about why wheel tax was down. You all remember that discussion? So you can look on page 15 in the cumulative total. Our wheel tax in 23 was $15.495 million. Then it dropped in 24 to $15 million. It's back up this year to $15.6 million. I think there's a timing issue somewhere. And so we thought that was the case, that there wasn't a reason that it would drop. You remember the state was doing they did a year where they did free registration on the state portion of tags. I think that played a part. I think some people may have registered early so they didn't have to pay it, but this is back to normal. So I think from that standpoint, I just wanted to bring this up because we had a discussion about how could it go down. So it went down, but it's back up. And so I think it was a timing from the standpoint of when somebody, not one person, but when a group of people paid. Page 16, courts. So Chancery and probate courts this year was up about $2,000, so basically flat. Criminal sessions was up about $553,000. Let me go back up to Chancery and probate. While they were even on what is turned into us, they turned in a huge for us excess fees check, like $500,000, which is really good for them. I'm going to talk about excess fees in a minute, but that's important to know. And you should if you see Scott Griswold, you can say that Caldwell said give you a hug. Criminal sessions up about $553,000. Circuit civil sessions up about $222,000. I mentioned the excess fees, and then you can ask for anything that you want. Excess fees for this year, as of now, elected officials have turned over $15,824,432. That's about $1.2 million ahead of budget and $743,000 ahead of last year. And so those things really do help us and have an impact on us, and certain things can drive that. Interest rates can drive that, and sometimes in reverse ways, right? So when interest rates are high, it's not good for Nick McBride and the Register of Deeds office, right? Because interest rates are high, then nobody's refinancing, so nobody's doing any work through there. If rates come down, then they'll go through there, and that helps him. On the flip side of that, interest rates are high, we get a higher interest rate on our money being held by the trustee. And so just interesting to think about. So I would say this in closing. Sure that, you know, if, as we end this year, we'll be in the red. I will tell you, it's where we said we would be. It's not a surprise. Once we found out about and learned about property tax ratio, and we fixed it, which is the right thing. It won't be fixed till 27. You'll hear me say, and I've said it before, that in 27 it's like a magic pot of money just reappears. Hey, it's yours again. And so that's good. And I think ultimately for us, 26, I think will be better than 25 because I think our designation list is smaller. I do think there'll be some more growth on the tax roll through the assessor's office, so that helps. I think it's cautious. I think if you ask us how we thought we budgeted for property tax for 26, I thought we were ambitious. And that's probably my fault, but I think we can get there now with the additions that have been added to the tax roll. And I think 25, 26 from a fiscal year standpoint will be lean, and we may use some fund balance. But ultimately, I think in 27 we rebound and things will be fine.
I will point out, and Commissioner Lee, this is where your question would come in. You have been given one additional piece of paper that looks like this. This came up in a recent, one of our recent meetings about where are all of our revenue streams. Obviously, they're buried in the budget and all the detail, but this just gives you a quick breakdown of what other revenue streams in Knox County. And Commissioner Lee, I'll turn it over to you.
That answers my question.
I think they are budget numbers, correct? And so I think for us, I think you all had asked for this. That's not all funds, just so you know. So if you go back and try to tie that back to the budget like Chairman Jay did this morning, and we say, well, it's not everything. It doesn't include some of the smaller funds because they're so small, like governmental law library. And we also did not put on there central cafeteria fund. We just get a number from the schools for that. And so if you try to tie that back to the budget book, it won't tie back. But I think what it is good for is it gives you rates on there, right? So if there's a rate associated with something, it is on there. It's reflective of FY25. We try to update that annually, and we'll do one for budget, one for actual. And so we can continue to try to update and let you all know what that is. Questions about that?
Commissioner Frazier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Caldwell, tell me, so the school balloon, school balloon loan payment, when does that come due and what is that amount?
So I think
we're already in it, aren't we?
It's starting to hit, right? And so I think the big piece maybe starts in 2027. I think we're in some of it. It was a handful of loans, I think 2023, no, I'm sorry, no. 2003, 2004, 2005, and maybe 2006. There's a handful of bond issues that were done then. And so we know that coming up, it will start to get even larger. And so we know that the total, got it right here, that our total amount, which in 25 we paid, as you just saw, we paid 82 million or something because of our variable rate debt. I think it was 82 million. Yeah, right at 82 million. We are estimating that by 2029, that number will grow to 98.9. So right at 99. So then, and I think, I talked to Chairman Jay, I think we may, is the next meeting, is it October or November?
Next Finance Committee meeting will be November 10th, and we're working on a updated debt analysis that I gave last November.
And I think
so
what
we'll present that.
I think I'm gonna try to get, there's too many here already, but Chris Bessler, too many Chris's, but Chris Bessler from Cumberland Securities to come and give an overview of where he sees us at and going. Because interestingly enough, and he'll talk about this much better than me, you know, we're just seeing the bad part happening, like growing to 98 or 99 million. We get to 2034, and after 2034, it just drops like a rock. And so it's like you manage to get there, you'll pay down probably all your reserves and debt service, and then there's like this bright light at the end of the tunnel. And so because ultimately those loans those bonds that we mentioned go away. They all go away in 2034, and then so we see a reduction in our debt service amounts, and so you get some relief from that, and you have room. Now, you know, we could structure bonds in a way, not to get too far in the weeds, we could structure bonds in a way to where we defer payments till then, but we don't like to do that. We like to do what we call fixed vanilla level debt service payments, meaning we typically would do 20-year fixed rate bonds. And then as we structure those, we try to do level payments on the bond from a principal standpoint, but also we focus on trying to keep level payments on our debt service budget going out as well. So it won't always be level payments on the bond itself, but it'll be close. And so that's kind of what we try to get to. And I think for us, we'll try to get Chris here, and he can go through those. But yes, those. I mean, the one that gets everybody's attention was a 28-year bond where there was no principal paid in years 1 through 20, and then all the principal gets paid years 21 through 28. I had a former county commissioner come up to me at a baseball game and said, yeah, but you all could make more payments on those if you wanted to. And I'm like, sure we could, but everybody wants to spend money on other things too, right? So everybody's not saying, oh, let's pay more on that. And so they're not wrong in what they're saying. And what I said to that commissioner was, I'm not blaming you. I'm not blaming you. And ultimately, you know, the structure is what the structure is. It's just that we're stuck with it, and let's make the best of it, and we'll get through it, right? And ultimately, it's hard to refinance a bond when you've not paid a penny of principal. And so we can't refinance these 3, 4, or 5 bonds that we're talking about because we've got either a low fixed rate or the variable rate that we've been paying very low on, but we've not paid any principal. So, you know, and you'll hear this from Chris Bessler. We talk a lot, and he's always looking for things that we can refund to save money, and those are not in the scheme of things right now. And so maybe they will be eventually, but as of now, they're not. It will make for some ugly debt service budgets where we'll be using more of our debt service reserves than would make you feel comfortable. I would tell you those reserves are probably there for that reason. So we ended 2024, we don't have 20, and we actually ended 25 barely to the positive, but in 24, our debt service budget had a fund balance of about 30 million. So be happy that your debt service budget has a reserve of 30 million. You probably won't see it in 2034.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. Just a couple of questions. On this page you gave us on the cable TV franchise, 33.2, do I recall that money, I was thinking that was what went into like our community media and all. Is that right?
They get, so all that goes to the general fund. We pay them 10% of that total.
Oh, 10%.
So 10% of what comes in is what goes to them, and they confirm that I'm right, which is probably scary for them, me sitting here spouting out numbers.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And one other question, I should know this. Sitting in on investment committee, and we get these wonderful reports about how we're able to make the most of money we currently have sitting in the bank, and trying to be wise in picking up extra revenue anywhere we can through interest and this type of thing. Are these court funds and the monies that they collect, are those separate, or is that all part of this big pot that it's all together?
All together. So anything that you see from the courts on this report are budgeted. They keep certain court fines to run their office. They'll send some funds to the state, but then a lot of their funds are turned over to the county.
Okay, and they're just, but we know it's their money.
We know it's their money, and we know it's budgeted for, and so
for our purchasing power and interest and all that.
It's not extra.
Gotcha.
It's already accounted for twice.
Oh, that's great. I mean, that's good. Thank you.
Commissioner Russell?
So just to kind of summarize here, we know that our debt is going to go up in 2027, but we're also going to get the benefit of the property tax not going down or not having to apply the discount. So between those two numbers, what do you think the net is of the positive versus the negative?
Yeah, I would say, if you think about it so 25%, just call it 10 million is the number that we got from the assessor. So if that percentage stayed the same, they'd get about 2.5 million. And so we're still going to have a deficit. It just won't be as large. And we do save a little bit by delaying when we issue bonds, just to make sure that we're hitting our spending requirements. We're fortunate in that regard. A lot of counties that are smaller, they'll do tax anticipation notes in order to get by until taxes hit, and some counties will have to issue those bonds July 1 to make things work. We're really fortunate to have the reserves that we have. But no, it will help, but it will still eat our reserves, because we know that the revenue sources that are allocated there now won't offset all those expenses that are coming.
Any other question? Commissioner Freed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chris, just to recap, were we able to give county staff any sort of pay increase?
Beginning January 1st of 2026, right? 125. They'll get a 2% raise, right? And so that will be in 2025. I mean, that will, let me phrase it, that'd be in January 26. But that was the only budgeted increase for employees in the 26 budget, was basically a half year of 2%. And listen, there's going to be some things, that are challenging, right? So for the last, 8 to 10 years, we have, through designations, been able to give county employees a $500 bonus at Thanksgiving. Unfortunately, you will not see that on our designation list. That's a big number. To do that, 1.6 as I was thinking, is what she said, so about 1.6, 1.7 million. Being already 5 million in the hole, we didn't think the prudent thing was to bring that. I mean, it's not something, I mean, we'd love to be able to do it, but I mean, it's just to give you an idea, we've often in the past even done like health insurance rebates, right? Our health insurance fund this year is about $5 million in the hole as well. So you can have some large client claims that eats that up in a hurry. And so it's not great news, and not anything that we prefer to do, but just from the financial prudent thing to do, it's just not there.
And just on average, a 1% raise for all employees is about 1.3 million.
1.3 per percent is a good number. Yeah, and eventually we'll get to a point where that goes up a little bit, but we roughly say 1.3 per percent. Yeah.
So it's safe to say that we're providing basic public services with flatter revenues, fewer people, increased overall cost, and higher public expectations.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I mean, right? I mean, take. I don't want to take up all your all's time, but take the solid waste issue, right? I mean, if you were to say we're going to close, I'm not saying this, but if you were to say we're going to close 4 convenience centers tomorrow because we don't have to operate them, what would be their response?
Pretty ugly.
Huh?
Pretty ugly.
It would. And, if you were to say today we're going to start paying to throw, what would that response be?
The same.
It'd be the same. I mean, it's not pretty. But when you look at that fund and you just look at it strictly from a financial standpoint, it's not doing well. And part of that is a lot of it's driven by recyclables, right? So what's the price of recycling and things like that? And if it's low, then it's bad for us. And then we provide things that the state doesn't require you provide. And here's the worst part about that. I mean, you'll understand that I'm not as cold-hearted as you think. We start to, if we said we're going to start to pay to throw tomorrow, who's going to get the worst of that? Mm-hmm. Those convenience center operators who are already the probably lowest paid employees that we have. I mean, think about that. I mean, it's bad for them. It's bad for everybody. There's no easy answer to, and we talked about this with the mayor, there's no easy answer to our waste stream issue from a revenue standpoint. Whatever the answer is ugly. I mean, it's what it is. But when you look at it and you see the study and you realize, probably need to examine that and see what we need to do. But things like that, think about it. If we didn't have to transfer $1 million for that, then that's $1 million we could have to do something else. I mean, it's what it is.
Yeah, and that's why, we did a traffic mobility study in one area of the county in 2019 that identified over $100 million of needed road improvements that would support development that was completed by 2020. We currently have a master transportation plan that's identified hundreds of millions of dollars of road improvements. We've got 2 traffic mobility studies going on right now in East Knox County and West Knox County, which I fully assume will identify millions, if not hundreds of millions of traffic or road improvements as well. We have a capital improvement budget in engineering public works at $15.9 million. Where do we ever catch up? Or do we? I mean, I know that's a loaded question and we don't have time for that, but I'm just saying we have 1,700 miles of roads that we have to maintain. And right now we're looking at an average cost to resurface at $175,000 a mile to realign and widen it, you're looking at $5 million a mile. So we have a backlog of road paving projects that is about to reach $140 million. So, and we have 8 vacancies in engineering and public works, and we have a hiring freeze. So there's that. And those are just statements. These are the things that keep me up at night. So I just wanted to share that.
Commissioner Hill?
Thank you. Just on a side note with our solid waste, the frightening thing about that is people will find somewhere to throw that garbage.
That's the other side of that too, right?
And that won't be pretty either.
If you change it to your point, then there are bad alternatives as well. And so there's really no good answer when you start looking at a solid waste stream. I know we're running out of time here though, but kind of directing to Commissioner Russell's question. I think what I'm hearing you say is with our reserves, our debt fund reserves and all, it won't be pretty at all, but we are going to survive. We will make it. However, if we, from this point forward, want to look toward any more designations to employees for pay raises, any health insurance rebates, if we want to look toward any improvements for our roads and engineering that are, as Commissioner Frazier just pointed out, are so woefully inadequate that right now we're behind, and that will only get further behind. The only answer I'm asking is somewhere or another we're going to have to generate more revenue. Is that what I hear you saying? Yeah.
Thank you.
I think what it comes down to is, if we're not talking about the status quo, right? So it's more, right? And so you want to do more. Then, in the world that we're in, you can't say you raise that widget by a nickel, it's going to produce whatever. So you've got 2 options, right? One is increased revenue, or the other is a reduction of expenses. And so that's your 2 options. And, they're not, both conversations are hard. But I do believe that ultimately, if giving the list that she has, and the conversations that we've had, it's going to be one or the other. There's, either you continue on like you are with a little bit of growth, right? I mean, there's no doubt we got hit hard by the ratio. But if we're talking about, trying to do a number of these things at one time, then yes, you're either going to increase revenue sources some way, somehow, or cut expenses, or a combination of both.
And I don't think with any of your reports I've heard you say anywhere that potentially we could cut anything that's listed. It sounds like they're just barely breaking even, most of them.
I'll say this, of course, all departments are always going to say, no, I can't cut anywhere, right? It's just what it is, And I do think, though, for the most part, the vast majority of departments do run very lean. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But I also think you are hindered as well because there are multiple maintenance of effort requirements on counties, right? We always talk about schools, right, because it's the biggest and it gets the most attention. There's maintenance of effort in the sheriff's office, there's maintenance of effort at libraries, there's maintenance of effort at engineering and public works. And so you think about, you get those things, right? You have maintenance there, you got to have so many convenience centers, as we talked about. So you look at what you have to do by state requirements, it really limits. Basically what you're doing is, at that point, you would say, what services are not required, right? So what don't we have to do? And that would be your conversation.
Commissioner Lee?
Thank you. Just a quick question. What is the total amount of the nonprofits, and where is that in the budget?
The total amount of nonprofits comes out of the general fund for the most part. There's some out of hotel, motel tax. But what we call nonprofit grants this year was $457,000, not very much. What we call economic development contracts, that was about 1.45.
It's on page
Million.
23 of the budget document, not the document you have, the actual budget.
Yeah. And then out of hotel, motel tax, we break that up differently. So some of that is for the direct promotion tourism, probably is the one that you'd be interested in, which is 4.8. But that, once again, is just used from hotel, motel tax dollars and couldn't be used for anything else than tourism. And so probably for your purposes, Commissioner Lee, is if you look at the nonprofit grants, about $457,000. We view economic development contracts differently. It's 1.45 because ultimately a lot of that we would have it anyway because they manage our business parks and our IDB. So most of that would not go away in reality. It'd be just redirected.
0.1% is generous.
I trust your number.
Yeah.
Okay.
1/10
We'll end on that.
1/10 of 1% is our not-for-profits.
If anybody has any upcoming Finance Committee meeting topics that they would like to have added or explored or information presented, please send those to me. Our next meeting will be in November, and we will start it at 1 o'clock. It's clear we always need more time, and I don't like to rush when we're talking about our finances. So any other business to come before the committee? If not, we are adjourned.